and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. Here comes Councilor DuPont. I want to welcome, I've been told we have a Waterville High School, is it social studies class, guys? Is that? Well, welcome to the meeting. We're glad you're here. Before we get started, I will ask Chairman Soul to please stand and lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get going, I will ask the City Council, is there anybody who has a conflict of interest with any of the votes they will take tonight? Great, we'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Can I get a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, there is no unfinished business, so we're going to move on to new business. We have Resolution 173, 2018.
A resolution providing for appointments to the Marijuana Study Committee. Be it resolved by the Waterville City Council acting as municipal officers that City Councilors Winifred Tate and Sidney Mayu be appointed to the Marijuana Study Committee.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Great. Next, we're moving to Resolution 174, 2018.
A resolution providing for appointing Cynthia Pearl as civil constable. Be it resolved by the Waterville City Council acting as municipal officers as follows, that the City Council hereby authorize the appointment of Cynthia Pearl as a civil constable with a term to expire in November 7, 2019. Be it further resolved that the scope of the appointment of Cynthia Pearl is limited to the duty of service of civil process documents, and that Cynthia Pearl is prohibited from carrying a firearm while performing duties as a civil constable, and that Cynthia Pearl is required to list the City of Waterville as additionally insured on a liability insurance policy of not less than $1 million.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Is Cynthia here? All in favor?
Tom, no.
She's worked for my firm.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Thank you. Come on up. Yeah, sure. Go
No,
ahead.
Cynthia's great. She's very responsible. She'll be a great city constable.
Cool.
I'm glad you voted her in. I think she'll be great.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Next, Resolution 175, 2018.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
A resolution providing for issuance of a special amusement permit to Kevin A. Joseph of doing business as You-Know-Who's Pub.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Resolution 176, 2018.
A resolution providing for authorization regarding mutual aid agreements. Be it resolved by the Waterville City Council acting as municipal officers as follows, that the fire chief be authorized to execute mutual aid agreements with surrounding municipalities for fire and rescue services. This authority is for a 3-year term beginning on November 1, 2018, and is to include additional municipal agreements to implement policies that support the implementation of mutual aid agreements.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there discussion on this item? All in favor? Next, Resolution 177, 2018.
A resolution providing for extension of lease option. Be it resolved by the Waterville City Council acting as municipal officers that the existing option to lease the former Runser property for use as a solar site be extended as indicated on the attached letter.
Move to adopt.
Second.
And we will open to discussion or questions from the council. Mike?
Just to remind the council, we're fortunate to have 2 sites in Waterville that are actively being investigated as potential solar sites. One is our landfill, which is the largest parcel, and that parcel is taking quite a bit more time. That's not the one we're talking about tonight. That one is currently under lease, but they're still developing all the information they need in order to go forward with an installation at that site. So that's probably, I think, a year away. The site we're talking about tonight is with the Runser property next to the airport. So it's across the street, across the Webb Road from the landfill site, much smaller acreage, but much easier for them to get going. So the lease that we had with them included a 90-day option, and they came to us in August, I think, and said, we'd like to exercise our option within the lease and do something there. And they have within 90 days to complete that option, but they just haven't been able to get all the work done. So I know there's a blank in the resolution you have in front of you. So they would like to extend the option to March 1st, 2019.
Could I get a motion to amend this to add that date?
So amended, I'll motion it.
Second.
All in favor? And could I get a motion to move as amended?
Move as amended.
Could I get a second?
Second.
Is there any more, Mike?
No, other than, we're still very, very hopeful this is going to pan out. It's not a done deal, but the company that's looking at it is investing a lot of time and money, so I have to believe at some point solar panels will go up.
So what would their lease be? What length of time would that be?
That's what we're working out now, is when this next option expires that you're approving now, then we would have to go into a full lease with amounts stipulated per acre and all of that stuff. So we're looking at what other towns have done with charging an acreage amount for these sites and working with Bill Lee. Town of Fairfield is in the same boat, so we're kind of working along with Fairfield on that lease.
So this option doesn't give them specifics for a lease, it just says they have the right to work out a lease with you.
That's correct. That's exactly. The option gives them the right to continue trying to work out a lease with us.
Any other questions from the council? Public? Okay, all in favor? Wonderful. Next is Ordinance 178, 2018.
An ordinance providing for amendment to Streets and Sidewalks Ordinance. Be it enacted by the Waterville City Council acting as municipal officers as follows, that the Streets and Sidewalks Ordinance, Article 3, snow removal, be amended as shown on the attached.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there discussion
Well,
on
it's
this?
something that's long overdue, and, with winter approaching, we realized as we looked at the ordinance, some things were very much out of date. So what you have attached to the agenda are the changes we're proposing. I know Mark Turner is here, and he can help me out if you have specific questions, but basically it's a house cleaning measure to get these changes made. Wasn't anything different, especially with the way we're going to plow and maintain,
No,
just making it more current, making the
more
ordinance.
consistently balanced in how the ordinance is written.
Any other questions? All in favor? Next, Ordinance 179, 2018.
An ordinance providing for amendment to administrative ordinance. Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Waterville, acting as municipal officers as follows, that Section 2-1 of Article 2 of the administrative ordinance be amended as shown on the attached. Such amendment will provide the authority to cancel city council meetings under certain conditions.
Move to adopt.
Second.
This is coming before you because we've had 3 cases in the last year, last 10 months, where city council meetings have been postponed. But there's nothing in our administrative ordinance that gives you,
That authority.
right? So back in February, we had a huge storm. There was no way we could have held a meeting on that Tuesday night. Back in August, I think it was August, we didn't have a quorum. So the smart thing to do would be to call everyone and say, don't come, we know we're not going to have a quorum. Put that word out ahead of time. And then the last occurrence was just a month ago when we just didn't have any business to conduct. But as you say, Counselor O'Donnell, we don't have the authority to cancel. This would provide that authority for certain occasions.
Is there any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Thank you.
Mike? Now we're on ordinance 180, 2018.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
An ordinance providing for amendment to zoning.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Oh, you want to speak?
Yes. I had some questions on this.
Okay.
This is rezoning for the purpose of redevelopment, and I just had some questions about what kinds of redevelopment would be possible there. And also, with this being rezoned Commercial A, if there is redevelopment, would the requirement in the zoning ordinance of a screening fence or hedge be enforced?
I'm going to pass that on to the city manager.
Your first question is to what kind of uses are
Yes.
allowed in commercial A. That's right in our zoning ordinance. I'd be happy to point that out to you. I don't remember all those uses.
Mike, go to the microphone.
You have one right there, Mike.
Microphone. Okay. So Ann Beveridge, our city planner, can certainly go over what those uses are. And she reminded me when I talked with her this afternoon that the planning board would get involved before any of those, before the site is developed. So the planning board would be the one to talk about fencing, screening, those kind of things. So likely whatever happens there will go before the planning board, then that discussion can happen about adequate screening.
Okay, yeah, and I know they had a meeting last month, and I missed it.
And I don't think there's any discussion about specific plans for that site.
Okay. Thank you.
What does the planning board meet, Mike? The first Monday of every month?
First and third, if there's enough
If
business.
they have
but-
enough business.
Yeah, and they meet in this room.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Ordinance 181, 2018.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
An ordinance providing for amendment to zoning.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there discussion? All in favor? Resolution 182, 2018.
A resolution providing for rejection of bid for foreclosed property. Be it resolved by the Waterville City Council, acting as the municipal officers, that the city reject the only bid received for the purchase of the tax foreclosed property at 59 High Street.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We advertised this property. It was foreclosed on in February. Owners basically disappeared, and taxes were not paid for almost 3 years. And we only received one bid as a result of advertising it. The one bid we received is quite a bit lower than the outstanding taxes due. And we were hoping at least to sell this property and get back what the taxes are due. We didn't get that, so we're recommending to you that we reject that one bid and go back out, and hopefully we get other bids that will come in higher.
Mike, I haven't been to this property. Could you comment to the condition of the property?
Condition is very, very rough. I mean, it's on the border of, well, maybe we should tear it down, or maybe we'll see what a reliable contractor can do. So I would say, in addition to price, when we get a bid, we want to make very sure when we come back to you, it's someone that we know, someone probably, hopefully, that we've worked with on other properties, and that we're confident that that person will fix it up and in a reasonable period of time.
So, Mike, when we advertise for bids on properties like this, do we expressly reserve the right to reject all bids?
Yes, we do. What we should have done in that first ad is to say that there's a minimum bid amount required. And we didn't do that, so we got a,
Low ball.
yeah, which, not surprising. Well, and the condition of the building's not surprising either. And so if anyone would like to see it, I'd be very, very happy.
There's no way to find the previous owner? In this day and age, it seems like we could always find the previous owner.
Well, I shouldn't say that we can't contact them, because Linda Cody, did all of that background work with whoever it was that owned it. So I didn't have contact with the previous owner. I just know that taxes were not paid for almost 3 years. Believe me, we do everything we can before we get to that point because we don't want to own buildings. We're not landlords. Not what we do.
Okay,
Other questions?
May I ask how much are the taxes that are over?
Just a little under 6,000. Yep,
5,800.
5,800, and I think it's even a little bit more than that now. Yeah.
Mike, since we're talking about abandoned buildings, is there any status on the Taco Bell? Are you collecting taxes on it? The abandoned Taco Bell building, is there any taxes being collected on that building?
Oh, yes.
Right, okay.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So the owner's skipped, so who's paying the taxes? The owner still?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. Or sometimes if the owner is not around, then it's whoever holds the mortgage pays the taxes. So obviously, they don't want to see it foreclosed if they have a mortgage on it. Actually, that's what saves most of the properties, is the mortgage holder ends up coming forward. I'm sure you understand.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Wonderful. Next up is community notes. Community notes is a time where if anybody has something they would like to say, speak about, a community event they want to tell us about, that it's not been on the agenda, now would be the time to do it. We ask that you come to the podium and tell us your name, where you live, and when you get to the 2-minute mark, I will give you a flag, and we'll ask you to wrap it up at 2 minutes.
This isn't my bag. Sunday evening. Sunday evening,
Can I have your name just for the record, ma'am?
Carla Mayhew, Ward 1.
Thank you.
Sunday evening, I found this on my door, and I was very upset with it, and I'm going to read it to you. It says, Catherine Weeks wants to use your tax dollars to pay an outsider to tell us how to run Waterville. Tell Catherine Weeks our city belongs to us. Catherine Weeks thinks divisiveness is the answer to our issues, calling for the recalls of all non-Republican city councilors. Tell Catherine Weeks enough is enough, and it's time to move our city forward. Catherine Weeks says she wants to represent all residents, but she means only if you're born in Waterville. Tell Catherine Weeks our city is for everyone who wants to call it home. Catherine Weeks believes conspiracy theories and distrusts the media.
Don't we all?
Tell Catherine Weeks our city needs sensible governance. Catherine Weeks has called Waterville a disgrace and a circus. Tell Catherine Weeks you're proud of our city. Vote no on Catherine Weeks, November 6, 2018. I have been a resident here in Waterville since 1965, have seen a lot of elections come and go, but never have I seen such actions as I have at this one. I am an older person, and I know there are a lot of differences in elections, but when I went to my door last Sunday evening and received this, I was appalled. Now, whoever put this out, I've got to say this, it is just nasty politics. This person already knew he or she wouldn't change my mind for my friend and my neighbor. Amen.
Thank you.
I am Rian Finch, Ward 6, and I am a trans American, trans Mainer, trans Watervillian, and there's a community event happening 2 Tuesdays from now, Tuesday the 20th, November 20th at 6 p.m., right before City Council. It's actually right down the street. It's at the REM building, 31 Temple Street, and it's called TDOR. It is the Trans Day of Remembrance. It's an annual event in which we as a community get together and honor and mourn the lost trans lives of the year. We read the list of names. And it's an exhaustive list. I think here at 2018, we're encroaching on 250 names. So it would be great to see the community there, to support the trans community.
Hello, my name's Scott Mackin, I'm a Water resident, but I'm also here for the Waterville Community Land Trust. I'm the secretary for the board of directors. I just want everybody to know I have a little brief update. We have not abandoned the property that we own on Water Street, the old 226, 232. We are actually working on development plans for the property to possibly put a small home and make it a park. But as anybody knows, for the city, it's a long process to plan. There's paperwork, there's all kinds of stuff you got to go through. But again, if you drive by, it looks like we've abandoned it. We have not. We do have some great plans on that site. So hopefully by spring of next year, we can actually have more of a plan and we can show something. But soon it will be a nice park / home on it, little waterfront access area.
Hi, I'm Jan King, and I live in Waterville, and I'm here as a member of the Waterville Board of Trustees of the Waterville Public Library. And I'm here with good news. So I wanted to announce to the community that the Waterville Public Library Board of Trustees has accepted, Tammy Rabideau has accepted our offer for library director.
Oh, wonderful.
At the Waterville Library, and we are just delighted to have her on as our permanent director. And I hope you all will, when you see Tammy, congratulate her. She's done a great job for us for the last 8 years as associate director, and we're really excited to have her there.
That's wonderful news. Thank you.
Julian Payne, Ward 5. I'd never met Kathy Weeks until the mayor recall, and that's when I got to know her. Passionate resident that came from Ward 1 to get involved in the civic process. The most troubling thing about the flyer is it did not say paid for and endorsed by. And I hope that with elections, we're not going to start that tone of people just circulating things without even owning up to their literature. It's cowardly, and I challenge whoever circulated that flyer to please contact Patty so that the community knows who was behind it. Excuse the pun, but Kathy Weeks was kind of tarred and feathered along the process. And villainized for speaking at meetings and really painted as an outsider who didn't speak for the community. But having almost a 50% tie in Ward 1, obviously she represents much of Ward 1. And I challenge the new councillor to realize that when they're up there. So I think she did reflect much of the values of Ward 1. And for a brand new person that nobody really knew, out on her own with no help, hitting the streets, connecting with people, I think that Ward 1 resoundingly said that we have 50% of us have many of the same values as Kathy Weeks did, who spoke at these meetings. So I think she was vindicated. Thank you very much. Hopefully they'll see Patty and clear this up.
Hi, Todd Martin, Ward 6. First, I just wanted to thank all the clerks that volunteered yesterday at the polls. I read an article recently that, the folks who volunteer at the polls are typically older, retired, and it's getting harder and harder to find folks like that who are willing to volunteer at the polls. So I want to say thank you to the folks who volunteered their full day to that effort. So thank you. I also want to thank the 3,052 people that voted in support of our question 1 on the municipal ballot to ban plastic shopping bags at big box stores here in town. It was a real community effort by myself and others in this room, and I'm really proud of this city for supporting our effort and for doing their own research. And I just wanted to say thanks to the 3,052 people that supported this.
The date that it should go into effect is when?
Sure. So it's April 22nd, 2019, which is Earth Day next year. So there's about a 6-month window. And I'll also mention that voters in Camden
Newcastle and Damascotta also passed a plastic bag ban on the ballot yesterday. Thank you.
Counselor.
Oh, I just wanted to thank Patty. I know she had a very, Patty, our city clerk, I know she had a very long day yesterday, and I wanted to thank all the volunteers as well at the polls, and thank everyone who stepped up to run for office here in Waterville and who came out to vote. I think it's really exciting that we have such a high level of civic engagement and interest and participation, and I'm excited to continue together with everyone, both elected and those who didn't get a chance this round, as we go forward in the city.
And I would like to publicly congratulate, he probably won't admit it, but my uncle, Bruce White, who won the 109 seat here. And also have a question for Mike. Since we have a vacancy in Ward 3, what happens to that seat now that we have a new elected councilor? Is that, are they going to start immediately, or? Oh, okay. I'm jumping
This
the
is a
gun.
good, this might be a good segue. Why don't you just come up for manager's
I knew it was
report?
happening. Segue.
What the law provides is that as soon as the council certifies the election results, then the seats that became vacant, Lauren Lessing leaving, and why did you end up here? And Nick Champagne.
Paid him off.
So those two seats, Ward 3 and Ward 5, were a special election, different from the other two councilors who were elected. And so the law provides for those two seats, the people who won those two seats, to take their seats immediately after the council certifies the results. So if we have the results final by November 20, the next council meeting, then those two people could come on board November 20. Now the question is, if there's recounts involved in the election results and we can't certify, you can't certify them by the next meeting, then it will be delayed.
If there's still stuff going on in other elections, like, I mean, ranked choice voting or whatever's going to, whatever, however this drags out, we can certify the ones we know for sure, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yep.
And then just do those other ones later.
That's right. We won't get held up by the statewide thing. Yep. Okay, I'm going to keep going down through the list. I think all of you got an invitation for the public meeting in this room next Wednesday night, a week from tonight, at 5:30. And it's a session, it's called a charrette. Charrette is the kind of thing where you have a blank piece of paper and everybody has a magic marker and you can draw what you'd like to see or have someone do it for what Castongway Square could look like in a redesign. So it's very much a creative session where people can come in, throw out ideas. I mean, some of them, most of them will never stick, but it's meant to be a very open process. That's a week from tonight, 5:30.
Can I just add, it's important that we have people from all different walks of life and all different areas of our city, because I think that the goal is to make it a place that everybody enjoys and that there's something there for everybody. And if you want that to happen, though, you do have to show up. And if you can't make it, tell your friends, tell your neighbors about it. I think everybody has a vested interest in making sure we have a beautiful square, but I think everybody also realizes it's time to do a little work there.
And if you're unsure if you want to go, refreshments will be provided, it says.
We'll be there.
Very good. And this is a months-long thing, so it well into January. We're going to be talking about Castongway Square. The next night, the 15th, Thursday, again in this same room, is a meeting about Trafton Road, the reconstruction of Trafton Road. An important meeting because that's a $2 million plus project, rebuild Trafton Road, as a result of the new interchange off the highway. So DOT is conducting that hearing, not the city, but that begins, I believe, at 6 p.m. Thursday night right here. Also Thursday at the Opera House is a book launch on a book called Water Village. And Water Village is a history of Waterville, or basically a history from 1902 to the present day, because we have a centennial history, 1802 to 1902. Nothing ever happened for our subsequent history until Earl Smith took it upon himself with the Chambers to finish our history from 1902 to today. So that book launch is next Thursday. And last thing before we get to Chief Esler is committee meetings. Parking committee meeting. We're hoping possibly next week or the week after. We're meeting with the chair next Monday afternoon to talk about issues with parking. So the parking committee is coming up. The Head of Falls Planning Committee in regards to developing piece of property ahead of Falls. That study committee is also going to be meeting in the next 2 weeks. The committee that's looking at marijuana legislation, local control, met Monday afternoon. I think that was their third meeting. And they meet again Monday the 22nd, so that's continuing. And that's the meetings, committee meetings that are going on in the next 2 weeks. The last thing is every so often with the council, we try to get our department heads here so that you can hear from the fire chief, you can hear from public works director, police. It's a good opportunity for you to ask questions. But there's a couple of things with the fire. Come on up, Sean. Fire department budget especially, that you should know about now and not wait until the spring. And so I asked Sean to put a summary together for you. There's no quiz on it.
All right, well, good evening.
Chief?
The first thing I want to say is there's a lot of positive things happening at the fire department. Me and my staff are really kind of turning the place upside down, and we're doing some overhauling, to be honest with you. So a lot of the policies and procedures that we're taking care of, and a lot of operations we're kind of examining real closely. But I found a few things in the budget that have drawn some real concerns, and it's not a game of pointing fingers or anything like that. I feel that the fire department, in a sense, has almost failed to really inform you guys on what the call force has done and specifically what a budget line represents in our budget. So tonight I'm here specifically to talk about the call firefighter line, or the part-time line. And as of October 1st, we essentially have expended $35,225, which is nearly 80% of that budget. We have at least 6 months more to go on that budget. And the way the call force cycle works is they're paid every 6 months. So with that being said, the reason why I feel that it's going to be over, it is going to be over for certain. And I can't predict the exact number because I don't know how many emergencies are going to come in between now and the end of the fiscal year or the next pay period. Just I give you an average, but I don't know the actual answer. But it's going to be over budget. And some of the reasons why it's over budget is obviously minimum wage increased $1 per hour in 2018. My call firefighters start at minimum wage. So that affects the overall pay. But we're also going to be seeing another minimum wage increase of $1 an hour on January 1st, which is, again, going to put that base rate up another $1 an hour. We had several new firefighters hired in 2017, and they began a 240-hour program to become a basic firefighter for the city of Waterville. So new recruits being in that program with the amount of hours that it takes to just be a firefighter. Now, we have firefighter EMTs as well, and an EMT program is another 180 hours on top of that. So, you know, just the firefighter recruit. Replacement of call staff with that were inactive with active staff. That was one of the things that the council, I think, had a discussion with Chief LaFountain about inactive staff. We got some new inactive people. Again, that was 2018, 2019. And as call firefighters advance their training, they get incentives. They get they get 25 cents an hour for going through that 240-hour program. They get another 25 cents an hour if they're EMTs. And our highest paid call firefighter makes $13.75 an hour.
And
he's
how-
been on the department for 35 years. So,
Can you explain the difference between your full-time force and your on-call?
absolutely.
Thank
Yep.
you.
So
I think
had-
it's cogent to the conversation when,
Yeah.
because, thanks.
No, absolutely, definitely. So I have a career force and I have a call force. The career force, essentially, we have 15 guys. There are 5 guys on per day. They are paid as career firefighters. They make a little bit higher rate, and of course, they get benefits as well. The career force is supplemented by the call force. So as we all can imagine, emergencies that happen in town, 5 guys can't handle those emergencies. We agree with that? If a building's on fire or even a car wreck with multiple people involved, 5 guys can't do it all. So we heavily rely on our call force to supplement our career force, which is essentially paid on-call people or people in the community that have jobs to leave their place of work or their family or their homes and to come in and supplement the career force. It's essentially the cost savings line of the fire department, essentially. If the fire department was to be staffed with full-time employees that could handle all the emergencies that the city of Waterville has, my budget would be double, if not triple. So our call force is essentially a cost savings line. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that I don't need more career firefighters, because I do, and we'll get to that. But it is absolutely critical that we have funding available for our call force. Does that answer the question, Mayor?
It does, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So again, and we've also experienced an increase in calls specific to EMS that we utilize our call force to help us with. So for example, if someone is in cardiac arrest, we call our call force in to help us, and we have EMTs, advanced EMTs, and paramedics on our call force that come to assist us in the event that somebody is experiencing a medical emergency. And they just simply have been on the rise. I think the last number I looked at, we called out the call force for medical emergencies 217 times this year. Last year it was 209 times, and of those, so we went from 209 to 217, but we still got 2 months to go. And then on top of that, with 2 months to go, they're showing a 94% response rate, meaning these guys are leaving their places of work, their homes, their families, and they're coming out and they're doing it at a 94% rate. Now that number is specific to EMS, the call-outs for EMS. Okay? So again, you can see that the previous years, what we've requested, what's been appropriated, and you can see what we've spent this year. And again, some of this has been out of my control. I know that this is going to be over budget. We have not hired anybody since July 1st on our call force. I knew it, I anticipated it, I saw it, and we haven't hired anybody. If we are to minimize the overage, which is what we have been doing, the following programs will have to be reduced. One of them is our call force provides CPR training. We have fire prevention details. We're unlike most fire departments where you have one day in a school educating, our children, our youth. The Waterville Fire Department spends over 3 weeks in our school systems. We also go to Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts meetings. We try to get the homeschool atmosphere, the daycares as well. And that just goes to show you the amount of draw that it takes on our services. Hydrant shoveling. A large majority of the hydrants that are shoveled here in the city of Waterville are shoveled by the call force. Storm coverage. So just because storms come into the city does not mean that emergencies stop. As a matter of fact, they're a lot worse. So somebody having chest pain at 3 o'clock in the morning tonight, we have easy access to your house. But if you're having chest pain during a snowstorm of 2 feet, we rely on our firefighters, both our career and our call, to come shovel your driveway, to come get you out of the house and transfer care to our transporting agency. But other than Public Works, who's already overtaxed, we're the ones that are shoveling the driveways. Storm coverage, so that's again, we bring in extra coverage during those times where it's going to be real bad so that we can provide services to the community. Aircraft standbys, where the airport has experienced extreme growth. Randy has done a great job. The problem is the more jets that they land there and the bigger jets that they land there, it taxes my service. I do not have an aircraft truck. I do not have aircraft gear. And the last time that we saw aircraft training was 5 years ago. That's just an idea. Call company meetings, general meetings. This is when communication from the fire chief goes to its officers. All technical rescue training, all hazardous materials training, routine alarm responses, and confined space standbys will essentially have to be reduced. I just have no choice. So on the back side of the page, as the fire chief, providing you with all of the information, not all of it, this is significantly going to reduce my department's morale. This will result in some of my call firefighters applying for surrounding communities because they're not here for the money. They're here because they want to be busy and they want to give back to our community. If we don't have enough call firefighters here, it's going to compromise firefighter safety. The less training that we do impacts firefighter safety, no question. This will reduce the fire department's state of readiness and capability, and it will reduce the ability for us to provide mutual aid. And we are relying on mutual aid more and more and more as we move forward here. It is the honest-to-God truth. So that's where we're at with the budget. I'm kind of looking, for direction, but note that I am reducing as much as I possibly can to minimize this overage.
Chief, I don't think there's any question from any of us that you would do just that. I do think it behooves us to approach, now that we, look, we're going to have a fresh legislature. There's a lot of new faces there. And I know you are pretty boned up on fire districts. We've had that discussion. Hopefully that's something we can get passed through. But I also think in general, even if we can, I certainly hope, because I've seen the number of calls that we make, both police and fire, to the nonprofits in this community. And I also know the burden of residential taxpayers is very difficult regardless of our needs. I hope that the city council in the coming year that we can work together and maybe speak with one voice to the nonprofit community and say, we need you to pay your fair share and start paying for the services that we're providing. And I think if we do it in a reasonable manner of bringing everybody to the table, hopefully we can get some traction on that and some voluntary payments. because let's face it, 600 to 700 calls a year to nonprofits ties up a lot of service time as well. Not that I'm not belittling any of the things you said, but if people vote for minimum wage increase, we have to understand that that then becomes a tax increase in situations like this as well. We want to make sure our community is safe, but within reason, we have to have a financial plan. And I think we're going to have to just start thinking outside the box and asking people to pay for the services.
So in transitioning from, anybody have a question?
When you respond to a call with VMT, you like bring three personnel to, or how does that compare the amount we're bringing with other communities like Portland or Augusta? Do they bring less or more to the job? And the second question was, does the Waterville Airport make payments on the city budget to the fire department for services?
I think you would be the best person to ask the second question
Yeah.
too.
No, the airport is a city department, just like Public Works, Library, and others, so those departments don't pay the city when these folks respond.
Because sometimes budgets would be, fire calls, and it would show it from, even though it's the same city department, it would show that figure leaving and then going as a payment to the fire department, because they're getting revenues from businesses and jets as well, so.
Yeah, but we've never done that.
Never done that.
So the first answer to your question is it depends on the community around us. Obviously, the community our size is going to have more people available. In Augusta, if they were responding to cardiac arrest, they would likely have 2 rescues and 2 engines, which have at least 2 people on them at times. When we respond with a rescue. It has 2 people on it. And then if it's a cardiac arrest, we would respond with a 3rd engine, which would bring the 3rd person in. And then we would call our call force in, which could bring anywhere from 2 to 7.
So that's a lot more than Augusta would use.
In this particular case, because Augusta is all full-time employees. They're 100% full-time, they do not have a call force. So the answer is we would bring in a similar amount, but 3 of those people would be paid career firefighters, whereas they would have 8 or 9 career firefighters or so.
So the man hours are compatible?
Man hours would be very close. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So on that note, when you respond to a cardiac arrest or emergency and there's 2 people, medical emergency on the rescue, does that drop, if there's another fire call in the city, does that drop your?
If there is another call in the city, we would respond essentially with 2 people. Yep, and then rely on our mutual aid partners to backfill.
Could we take the money that we're going to spend on the slide and give it to the fire department?
I think that ship sailed.
So question about the hydrants.
Yep.
There's a line in the budget that you pay for the hydrants, right?
We pay approximately $378,000 out of the fire department's budget.
Because they're owned by Kennebec Water District.
For the maintenance and rental of
We
hydrants.
shovel them in the winter.
We do shovel them in the wintertime. And we need them. It's absolutely necessary for our job function to perform fire suppression for us to shovel these hydrants. And the last thing that we want is to pull up to your house and have to worry about shoveling the hydrant out when we should be worrying about putting water on the fire or rescuing kids out of the house.
But if there's a hydrant in front of your house, please shovel it so they don't have to.
And I will say you do an excellent job with that.
Thank you, sir.
I see it on Facebook every year, so. Anyway, I need to really, I need to mention the tower. The tower truck is a large expense. We purchased it over 20 years ago. The truck has experienced some significant mechanical and maintenance issues. Some of the stuff I wrote down was hydraulic fluid leaks in the chassis and torque box, repair, replacement of load limited indicating device, repair of ancillary power. The tower truck, prior to going out for service, was unable to lift capacity, which meant essentially it was derated from 1,000 pounds to 500 pounds. So I could not even put 2 firefighters in the bucket without it being unsafe. There are some lights on the ladder. The ladder itself is actually cracking and breaking because the truck is old. When they were down there doing some repair on it, they found that the outriggers or the stabilizers on the truck that hold this truck into position so that it can elevate it 100 feet actually was delaminating due to the corrosion, meaning that metal is actually starting to come apart. This truck has cost the city of Waterville over $350,000 in the last 10 years in maintenance alone. I just have no choice but to stand here in front of you to recommend that this truck gets replaced, as soon as possible. The truck is going to be 1 to 2 years building it. So even if we got it on the bond for 2019, which is what I highly recommend, we would not see this truck until 2020. These trucks are very expensive, very, very, very expensive. The price that I have to throw out, because I can't predict what the price is going to be with 5% increases every year, is $1.5 million. That's a lot of money for a ladder truck.
Is that kind of the same design as you have now? I mean,
That is the same design. It would be a platform ladder truck. And what I've proposed, and the city manager and I have discussed extensively, is getting a pump on this truck and essentially reducing an engine and a tower and combining them into one. Essentially, if we was to replace the ladder truck and an engine, it could be over $2 million. I think that the most logical approach here, based on our current staffing levels, is to eliminate one of those vehicles, reduce the maintenance cost, and go with essentially a lower cost plan that would provide my department with the same capabilities. When we had 7 firefighters per shift, full-time firefighters per shift, and a call force of better than 40, we needed 3 engines, essentially, especially for our rural areas of the community. Today, we just simply can't staff that.
Chief, have you had discussions with the philanthropic community, anybody in the philanthropic community, about these needs and potential grant opportunities?
So the last week in October was a very busy week for me. My department, with my staff, we applied for 3 grants during that time. And I applied for, actually, Garvin here as well, he helped me big time, I got to tell you. And we applied for $1 million towards this truck. We will not know whether we receive that grant until maybe fall. It could be up to 2 years before we hear back.
Have you met with anybody locally about the capital needs?
I have not met with anybody locally.
You haven't?
I have not. Nope.
You
Other than Mike. I would be happy to if you have any recommendations.
I thought you met with Kobe. I thought you met with President Green with the police.
I did meet with President Green. I did not discuss particularly a ladder truck.
Okay.
I sent basically a wish list of capital expenditures up there, just to show him what I was going to be applying for, what my capital needs were, but I have not had a follow-up meeting to discuss that.
Great. Appreciate all that you're trying to do to think outside the box.
No problem.
We go back for a minute. What is the
Absolutely.
relationship with Delta? I mean, because Delta goes to all these rescue calls too,
Yep.
right?
Our relationship is very good with Delta. They're a very good service, and they provide a very good transport service to the hospital. The primary mission of the first response agency is to get there and bridge the gap of time in between time of dispatch and the time it takes a transporting ambulance to get there. That is us. Yep. We do have ambulance delays at times, and we do our best to provide services when they otherwise wouldn't be provided.
if Waterville Fire became a transport service, would that generate some revenue?
If Waterville Fire became a transport service, the answer to that question is I have not fully researched it at this moment in time. I think it's a viable option. I really need to sit down and iron out some numbers and really put together a plan for Mike if that's something that the council would like to look one of the things I have done is I have printed off a 187-page document pertaining to the funding alternatives for emergency medical and fire services. This has a lot of information. And I'm really hoping that, as we know, we have a staffing issue with the fire department. We agree with that. There's no question. I realize that I was in the heat of the moment. I should not have talked to the media about this. This is where I need to come and address those issues. Okay? So, with that being said, we have a staffing issue. There's no question about it. We need career firefighters are guaranteed. They're guaranteed because they're up in the station and they're prepared to respond to emergencies, and that is their job. That is my recommendation, but we also need to bolster our call force. And some of the out-of-box ideas that we have moving forward is really tapping into our college system. The problem is, even though the college systems will provide us with the volunteers that we need, some right out of this building, I don't have the money to put them in turnout gear. Turnout gear costs $3,500 per firefighter. I don't have the money to pay for instructors to train them. I don't have the money available in my training account to take on one volunteer, let alone a group of 12. So my recommendations, as I really dig into this, and I encourage you to stop up to the fire department, because I'd love to distribute this document to all of you, to be honest with you. I didn't want to waste paper coming down here and handing it out. But we need a mix of all of it. With the current tax situation in town, I understand, and that's why we're going to try to come up with some out-of-the-box ideas to generate some revenue, or to at least provide you with some options to help with the tax issue.
So not only is your call force is aging as well. You would say, right?
They are very aging. That is absolutely correct.
And some of them, it probably wouldn't be safe to go inside a burning building, so you need those younger people, I would imagine, to start training, to learn.
I do, very much. I really think that to be preemptive, looking at next year's budget, that we need to, and Mike and I discussed this today, we need to really get together and discuss this. I'd really like to see a committee of some kind that the council was to put together to aid me in throwing around some options and coming up with a solution that works for both the tax issue and for the department as well.
I think it's a good idea. I think if we do that, we should look at public safety in general and include the police in that. I know the reason we have two buildings is because they don't like each other and don't get along and don't want to be with each other, but you might have to.
I assure you, the police and fire departments have never got along any better than it is today.
Well, that's good.
I assure you that. We have a very good relationship with the police.
But I think it's a good idea. I think it would be great if we could look at these things together in a more strategic fashion, because we might come up with some better ideas.
Again, unless you have any further questions for me, I just wanted to let you know where the budget was at.
Two things. One, Julian.
So it's my understanding too that Waterville also has had an increase in population of 700 people. So that's about 1/20th increase in service calls over the year from 4 or 5 years ago.
Some of the things that I really want to point out is the quarry road didn't exist. Waterville
I can't do everything around the camera. Sorry, he's addressing a resident.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. You're fine.
You tell me what to do.
I was talking to the camera, and you go ahead and address Mr. Payne.
Okay. The quarry road didn't exist. The airport was nothing near where it is now. We've had tank farm development. We've had a natural gas pipeline come through this city. We have had, again, I think I mentioned earlier, but Waterville Commons Drive, 20 years ago. All of this, the fire department had much more staffing and much more capability, and we continue to add, which increases our workload and the amount of development that's occurring here. We have a code enforcement division that's made up of the same firefighters that are responding to your emergencies. So we're being taxed. But we're doing our absolute best, and we don't have our eye. We have our eyes set on providing the best level of patient care and the best fire suppression services we can within the confines of the budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a final note. Students, is there anything we didn't address that you would like us to? And any questions? Thank you all for coming. Appreciate having you here.
Motion to adjourn?
Great. We're adjourned.